What do you think is the nature of all of this? Is this internal political fighting in Washington between the two parties within the administration, or this is really about foreign policy, U.S. vis-a-vis Russia?
Well, we don't know exactly, and I think a lot of people are trying to figure it out, but and time will tell. There's certainly an administrative piece of this, which is apparently Vice President didn't get all the information that he needed, so that's a strictly management issue with a key set of topics at hand. And then, of course, it pertains to one of the most sensitive foreign policy issues that the United States faces. So, in a sense, it's all of the above, but exactly what's going on, we're going to have to wait and see.
At this point, Mr. Flynn was talking about to the public his partial information provided to the Vice President, but many are wondering what exactly is the situation, if you read the news story these days, about the internal fighting within National Security Council, the key organization providing advice to the U.S. President about national policies and international policies. May I have your views about that as well, Mr. McArthur?
Well, again, it's no secret that there are often debates within a White House or any other administration. So it's very natural that there would be debates and differences of views. I think the key question is around protocols. There's questions around even laws and representations around diplomacy. And so they're staffing up again, and there's a search underway, we understand, immediately for a new national security advisor. There are some very senior people. General Mattis, Secretary Mattis is, of course, a highly respected leader of the Defense Department. So there are many, I think, sane voices that are wanting to make sure, and sober voices, I should say, sober voices, that are just wanting to, it seems, build up the right machinery so that there's minimized risks of future problems.
Mr. McArthur, at this point, there are certain information that is crucial, which is how involved Mr. Flynn is with Russia concerning so-called national security issues, and also what is Russia's role in terms of U.S. presidential election. How much will these information, once find out, have eventually to do with the credibility of this president now already sitting in the White House?
Again, there's so much one can only speculate. There are investigations underway. The security establishment has already released quite a bit of information on the influence with the election and so forth. Many investigations we know about. There are others we probably certainly don't know about. So I think this is going to play out in a lot of the U.S. media this morning. Questions about who knew what, when, are crucial. So, in the chain of command, this is a central debate, and it's an important part of the Free Press's contribution to this to ask the questions, push for good answers, and we'll be seeing how that interfaces with vital national security issues.
Mr. Cui, here in Beijing, we understand from this part of the world there are certain information in the hands of the U.S. intelligence agency concerning one phone call in which Mr. Flynn was talking to his Russian counterpart, the Russian ambassador, and there are certain information in it that is crucial. Without knowing exactly what the information is, Mr. Cui, may I ask you from your perspective, how much do you think this early stage chaos in the White House is likely to define the way that it's going to design its foreign policy, not only toward Russia, but also toward the rest of the world, China included?
Yes, I think that the resignation of Mr. Flynn will give us some clear messages. Firstly, how about these uncertainties of this new administration in the United States? And also, maybe we can find out a kind of instability will be produced from this situation. And also, yes, on foreign policy field, and we can find out some story behind the curtain. And also, I think it will give another maybe negative impact on the foreign policy of President Trump, because as we know, during his election campaign, he promised that there will be more relaxation in the relations with Russia. But now with more and more story behind the curtain and explored, we can find it will give more pressure on President Trump to have its policy to Russia, and also maybe the whole design of his foreign policy will be questioned by more and more by the public in the United States.
Mr. McArthur, do you think this is the other stage of Washington establishment questioning a possible closer relationship with Moscow?
Again, there are so many voices, so many debates. I think it's a wait and see situation in terms of who gets positioned where. I think we are seeing, again, issues of the chain of command. Vice President Pence was allegedly quite upset to hear about, that he wasn't given full information. So, this is all about establishing, I think, stability. We've seen how even in President Trump's relations with different world leaders in the past few days, it's been about establishing stability. And we've seen, I think, this is a government or president administration that was elected on a premise of doing things differently. There are a lot of Americans who are interested in some things being done differently, but then there are a lot of people who want and need for their security and safety a lot of things to be done in a stable manner too. So I think that's the balancing act that the administration is trying to govern with.
Before we go, Mr. Cui, final word from you. Now we see even further chaotic, more confusing situation regarding the national security apparatus inside Washington. There's also so-called shadow National Security Council, led by Mr. Bannon, as the reports suggested. What does that mean for China to communicate with this White House and communicate with Washington now regarding the bilateral relations? Do you think we will be able to find the right way, the right channel?
I think firstly, Mr. Trump should find the right way by himself. And also, of course, I think this kind of uncertainties of the administration or some very important position like the National Security Advisor certainly will give more and more impact on other countries, including China. And of course, I think that so far for China and the United States, we do have some relative stable structure for the bilateral relations. I don't think any kind of change of position, even for this National Security Advisor, will give some large impact on this bilateral relations between China and the United States.